Hi, everyone. I'm Steve. I'm here with David Wright, who is a personal trainer at Parkway Athletic Club. If you guys watch our podcast, you know who he is. He's a personal trainer at Parkway Athletic Club in Carson City, Nevada, and a physique competitor who's got a show in a week. So we'll see if he's able to talk, uh, see how he does. So we're going to see. He hasn't talked yet. He's saving it. So we're going to talk about calories. Now, David and he is more than I am, a total freak about um, counting every little detail, every gram of protein, every gram of fat. And that's extreme. I admit it. I'm even extreme, and I'm not a competitor. But I'm extreme. And we don't expect people to be nuts like us. I've been a gym rat for 50 years. So we don't expect that. But we're going to tell you just simply calories are, you don't have to be extreme as we are, because if you start eating right and you start doing certain things right, all that stuff is going to take care of itself. So you don't have to be nuts like us. Unfortunately, everybody has their teeter-totter, and you get to choose. Okay, I like to have a beer every night. That's going to affect your teeter-totter, the teeter-totter of health. I like to have pie once a week or whatever. Everyone gets to make their own choices. But we're going to talk about how you can do this kind of at moderation, so you don't have to be kooks like us. So if you guys are interested in our weight loss program, use the QR code on the screen or the link in the description. If you're interested in interviews with personal trainers, doctors, nutritionists, please subscribe to the channel. All right. So, David, what are your first thoughts on this? If someone just wants to be healthier, they want to lose weight, they're overweight, and they just want to start with the basics, talk about that.
Yeah, Steve. So that's a great starting point there. Question. So, as you know, I run the nutrition program here. And one of the things that I talk about a lot with clients is, and one of their hesitations of even starting a program or even just doing things on their own is, you know, they see it as a really cumbersome process where, just as you kind of laid out there, counting every calorie, counting every gram of fat, every macro, all these different things that you see online of, you have to track it, you have to track it. Now for me, I'm literally tracking everything down to the gram. But um, for someone who is just wanting to get healthier and change up what they're putting in their body, it's not really necessary. So my first kind of thoughts on that is, as you said, when you start cleaning up your diet, by cleaning up, my definition of that is probably exactly the same as yours, you know, getting rid of those processed foods and that, junk, and having whole foods, because whole foods are going to be a lot less calorie dense than, your average processed, ultra processed food. So you change the type of food that you eat. That's what I start with my, nutrition clients, or even people that I might do an intro session with and just talk basic nutrition is, you take one step at a time. Because if people are saying, well, I need to not only switch what type of food I'm eating, so going to whole food, but now I also have to count all these things. And some people might even do that for, a month, a week, 6 months, whatever. But it becomes so cumbersome because you're trying to literally change all of your habits and establish brand new habits for all these different things, when in reality, you could just start, step one, start eating healthy. And you'll see results from that, because as I was talking about calorie dense, those ultra processed foods have so much just junk and crazy stuff in it that not only is it calorie dense, but, not to get off topic, but there's also a bunch of different chemicals and additives in there that cause inflammation and other things. So we retain water. There's a whole list of other stuff. So when you switch to whole foods and you start eating better, you're going to see, weight loss, fat loss. Now, eventually, would you want to get to the point of counting calories, or, at least somewhat tracking them? Maybe, depending on what your goal is, but start simple. That's always my kind of motto is start simple. Don't overcomplicate things like I would do, because of what my goals are. It is complicated, and most people would never ever want to do what I do because it is extreme. Um, but that's one of those things where you don't have to do any of that. So I think that's the misconception a lot of people have, is that there's a lot of processes to go through and so many things to track. Forget all the tracking, at least for now, and just start that first change, and you'll notice a difference.
Yeah, you're right. And if you change the food that you're eating, what's going to happen is your calories are going to go down
Yeah,
if you change the food you're eating, because those processed foods are addictive and you just want more. What was that commercial? I mean, back in the 70s, 80s, no one can eat just one. Of course you can't. No one can eat just one potato chip. You want piles of them, you want bags of them. And if you go look at how many calories are in a bag of potato chips, it's over 1,000. And
crazy.
anyone could eat a bag of potato chips because it's not very much volume, but it's a lot of calories. But if you eat an apple, if you eat a couple cups of blueberries, that's more volume than the chips. And but the calories are way less. So volume is different than calories. So you're going to find that you can eat just as much volume, even more volume, but the calories are going to go down. Now, the one thing doing this, you want to make sure you're getting enough protein. You might want to learn how much protein is in a chicken breast. 8 ounces of chicken. How much protein is that? 60, 70 grams of protein. That's a good chunk of protein. So you want to know how much protein is in an egg, how much protein is in the lean ground beef I'm eating, so that you have an idea how much protein you're eating, because you want to have an idea how much protein you're eating, even though you're not counting calories. And like David said, start simple, something that's realistic, because this can be overwhelming. If you're going to jump right into it, no one jumps right into it and even goes to where what I do. It's ridiculous, but I think it's fun. I'm a little kooky. I think it's fun. So you got to start with something that you can maintain and something that's simple for you where you get results. So as David said, eat whole foods, real food, get rid of the processed food, the ultra processed food, and make sure you're getting enough protein and you will get results. Of course, I believe, and he also believes, it's very important to lift weights because every pound of muscle is precious.
Yeah, and that's part of it, Steve, is we need to make sure, people focus a lot on, oh, I should do low carbs and I should do low fat and I should do this, that, and the other thing. Just switch to whole foods. Don't worry about the low carb and the low fat and the low this, that, and the other. If you're tracking one thing, at least, you know, one type of metric, you're going to, like you said, protein is the most important because we want to keep the muscle we have. We want to be able to grow some muscle as well, because it's going to be very important throughout your life, but especially as we age, we want to make sure we have, sufficient amount of muscle and that we don't lose the muscle that we do have, because that naturally does occur, especially if you're not, strength training of any kind or doing different things. If we're too sedentary, there's a whole host of things. But one thing that you can do is make sure that you do have enough protein. So, at some point, maybe you start tracking your calories, but again, making it simple. Start tracking your protein, start eating whole foods, because like I love the example that you gave in terms of, volume of food versus, how calorie dense something is. I mean, yeah, those potato chips, man, they're addictive. You could eat, the whole can of potato chips, and you can't just eat just one because there's so many chemicals telling your brain you need to eat more. By the time your belly understands, like, whoa, this is way too much fat and everything else, your brain is already like, nope, keep eating. And so until you've consumed that whole can, you don't realize how much you've eaten. Whereas with blueberries or other different things, lean meats, like your body can process that and knows, okay, we're good, we have what we need. You don't overstuff yourself, and you could have, I'm just going to guesstimate out here, but with that one can of potato chips, which does not weigh very much, but is super heavy in calories and fats and trans fats and all that horrible
Salt.
stuff. You know, you could take a chicken breast or even two, and that's going to probably weigh, you know, 3 or 4 times what that whole can of, chips weighs. And it's going to give you 120, 140 grams of protein for two good sized chicken breasts and very little fat, very, very little fat. It's just important to say, you know what, I'm going to switch, even if it's just something simple like I'm going to start making sure that I have a healthy breakfast. And, here are the things I'm going to eat. And then you work on, I'm going to start having a healthier lunch once you've had that breakfast routine down. You don't have to wipe everything away all at once because sometimes that'll overwhelm people if they try to just, completely redo their whole entire, routine that they've established for the last 10 years. It's generally going to be not very successful if you try to wipe everything out all at once because it's very overwhelming unless exactly what you're doing, have a coach, those types of things. And even then sometimes. So start simple, get your breakfast under control, get your snacking under control, then, work your way through that because what you're going to find is that as you fix all of these things and, for the better, you're going to feel a lot better. You're going to, definitely going to see weight loss, especially at first, but your feeling of like waking up in the morning and not craving those terrible foods. Why? Because your body's used to having this healthy food that it wants, needs, and it gets nourished by. So it's going to want those instead. You're going to feel better. You're definitely going to feel better throughout the day as you fix your different types of foods. I can tell you from being 260 pounds and eating just nothing but garbage before, I can tell you even right now, where I'm in a calorie deficit and, not a sustainable place that I would be in after Saturday's show, we're going to kind of reverse into a more stable spot. But even right now where I'm at, which is, tired in a calorie deficit, depleting carbs, all the different things you have to do before a show, I feel better right now than what I did when I was 260 pounds eating just garbage whenever I felt like it. So those are two extremes. So most people are in the middle of that where I'm overweight or maybe even obese, or I just don't feel good. Maybe I don't look terribly fat. Maybe I'm skinny fat. Maybe I'm not fat at all, but I just feel horrible. Why? Because maybe the calories, maybe I'm in a deficit, but the food I am eating is junk. It's just not, I don't need a lot of it. So there's a lot of different things. So again, rather than considering everything and changing your whole life around, start simple, change what you can change, piece by piece right there. And eventually what you get is your whole day, your body is then going to want the whole foods, the nutrition, and you're not going to be craving that, egg McMuffin down the road every morning for breakfast. I had a client like that in my nutrition sessions. We used to eat breakfast out every single day before work, eat lunch out every single day with coworkers. Doesn't do that anymore. Why? Got a meal plan, got a coach, which was me, and we talked about those challenges. We talked about how to overcome them. And it was exactly this: start with breakfast, eat this. And so now we're there and she feels a lot better. There's a lot of benefits. So just start simple and you'll be amazed at the changes that'll come.
Yeah, I would just say again, don't overwhelm yourself. Don't overwhelm yourself. Start with something that's sustainable, something that you can do that's going to encourage you. Because it can be overwhelming. If you try to go to one extreme, from one extreme to the other, it's too much. But it can be simple and you can get results. Find a gym that's convenient for you. That's a big deal also. So, David, if people want to follow you online, follow what's happening, they're going to see pictures and videos and all that stuff, I'm sure, on your social media coming up in a week or so. How do they follow you online or how do they reach out to you?
So they can follow me and take a look at my Instagram. It's at David Wright _fitness. So that's basically my fitness journey for the last, gosh, I don't know how many years. So kind of seeing progress through there, which will also include the upcoming show after that's completed here in about 5.5 days. And then at Right Fitness Training for more of the personal training side of things.
All right. Thanks for being with us, David, and we will see you next time. Good luck with the show.
Thanks, Steve.